while you were away? A matter of fact, what was the first thing you did when you got home?
I went to go see my daughter. I went to, you know me? Like when I got to my actual house, I went to go see my daughter and shit.
Okay.
Those tender words about reuniting with his child would haunt the memory of everyone who knew John Martinez, because just 21 months after walking free from a 4-year prison sentence, the 27-year-old Bronx drill rapper known as Suave Drilly would be gunned down in broad daylight, ambushed by masked gunmen right outside the very parole office where he'd just completed a routine check-in on October 15, 2025. What makes this tragedy even more devastating is the calculated nature of the attack, which unfolded on that Tuesday afternoon around 5:50 p.m. at the intersection of Alexander Avenue and Bruckner Boulevard in Maud Haven. 3 to 4 masked assailants rushed toward Martinez as he exited the Bronx 2 parole office, raining bullets into his chest. But before we dive into the shocking details of what happened that day, let me take you back to 1998, when this story truly began in the Dominican Republic, where Suave Drilly was born into circumstances that would ultimately shape his path toward both artistic expression and deadly gang warfare. John Martinez arrived in the United States at just 3 years old, settling with his family in the working-class neighborhoods of Norwood and Bedford Park in the Bronx. Throughout his childhood and teenage years, he resided on Mosholu Parkway, constantly referencing Gun Hill Road and the Norwood area as emblems of his roots and community ties, which would later become central themes in every track he recorded. Growing up in the Bronx during the late 1990s and early 2000s meant witnessing violence normalize around you, and for Martinez and countless others, gunfire was background noise rather than cause for alarm.
It's fake regular, like everybody make it seem like it's crazy, but like growing up when you see a lot of crazy shit, it just become regular.
This normalization of violence would prove prophetic in ways that no one could have anticipated, because as Martinez grew older, he didn't just witness the street life from a distance, but instead became deeply embedded in it through his affiliation with the G-Side/Drilly gang, a violent subset of the larger Bloods, Sex, Money, Murder organization. This organization operated primarily in Fordham and Bedford Park, controlling territories through intimidation and violence. But what set Martinez apart from many of his peers caught in similar circumstances was his genuine gift for musical expression that would eventually give him a platform to tell his story.
Because I remember when kind of like Brooklyn was kind of taking off, and then it feels like Pop Smoke kind of passes away, then things start dying down. And then out of nowhere, the Bronx just goes on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Around 2020, as the Bronx drill scene was exploding with raw, confrontational energy, Martinez entered the rap game with his debut track, Op Spotter, a collaboration with Spaz Drilly and Good Day Ray that would change everything for him. The song represented everything Bronx drill stood for, which meant it was aggressive, unapologetic, and deeply rooted in the territorial conflicts. The track would eventually accumulate over 900,000 views on YouTube.
First, we're not really paying attention to the views, like.
Okay.
So like what we did like 100K like in a week, or like 2 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
So now we like, people jacking this. That's what they want to hear.
But here's where Martinez's story takes its first tragic turn, which would set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his death years later. The success of Op Spotter came with a devastating price that Martinez couldn't have fully anticipated, considering the song was released in July 2020, and by September of that same year, Martinez was behind bars, meaning his musical career had barely begun before the streets and the justice system conspired to claim him. What Martinez couldn't have known as he sat in that cell was that his lyrics, which he saw as his art and his expression of lived experience, would become evidence in a big gang case that would change everything.
But we didn't really see the views till like we got locked up.
Yeah.
Then we get locked up, the views start climbing up.
While Martinez was in studios recording Op Spotter, the case was moving through the system of the law enforcement. During this time, the NYPD and Bronx District Attorney's Office were doing a multi-year investigation into the G-Side/Drilly gang, carefully building a case that would ultimately charge 20 people with 82 counts, covering 32 separate acts of violence that had scared communities for years. On April 7, 2022, the hammer finally fell when Bronx District Attorney Darcel D. Clark and NYPD Commissioner Keechant L. Sewell held a press conference to announce the big case in what they called Operation Drilly, which was a takedown targeting gang activities that went from September 20, 2018 to March 15, 2022, covering nearly 4 years of alleged criminal conspiracy and violence. The charges were shocking in their size and seriousness, beginning with first-degree conspiracy carrying potential sentences of 15 to 25 years to life for some defendants, while also including murder, manslaughter, attempted murder, criminal possession of weapons, reckless endangerment, assault, and grand larceny. But what makes this case particularly controversial and what would directly impact Martinez in ways that raised serious questions about artistic freedom is that prosecutors specifically pointed to drill rap videos as evidence, arguing that songs like Op Spotter weren't just artistic expression protected by the First Amendment, but rather bragging admissions of criminal activity, visual evidence of gang membership, and tools for scaring rivals and recruiting new members into a life of violence. Martinez himself would later speak about the pain of betrayal that cut deeper than any physical wound, describing how he'd been told on by somebody who was supposed to be street beefing, was supposed to be keeping it in the streets, rather than cooperating with law enforcement.
Who is that? What is?
I said Blakey's a rat.
Yes. You said who?
Blakey.
Blakey. I thought you said Blake got you. Blakey. Who was that? Was that somebody that was friends with you, or?
That's mainly one of the reasons why I just did 4 years in prison just now. Like, I got told on.
But let's talk about what Martinez actually faced in court, because the details matter when understanding how his case differed from others caught up in the same case. Despite being swept up in this massive gang prosecution that made headlines across New York, he wasn't directly linked to the murders in available public records, which suggests that while he was connected with the gang and participated in its culture through his music, his actual criminal behavior was less serious than what prosecutors alleged against other defendants. Instead, his involvement appeared tied to collective gang activities, with his drill rap videos serving as key evidence of connection and mindset rather than proof of specific violent acts he personally did. By March 2023, Martinez was convicted of attempted gang assault in the first degree, which is a Class C felony, and criminal possession of a controlled substance in the third degree, which is a Class B felony, representing charges that were much less serious than what others in the case faced. These convictions suggested either that Martinez had negotiated a plea deal to avoid harsher penalties, or that prosecutors simply didn't have enough evidence to tie him to more serious crimes, which is a common outcome in big gang cases where not every defendant is equally guilty. His sentencing happened on June 7, 2023, with a term of 1.5 to 3 years running at the same time as other charges, which meant that because he'd already served time since his June 2020 arrest, the clock was ticking toward his release much faster than it would have if the sentences ran one after another.
For me, they first offered me, how much was it? They first offered me 15. It was 15 to 25 if I blow the conspiracy in the first.
Yeah.
So time going on, 2021, town going crazy, 2022, town going crazy, we still locked up. Then 2022, they offered me, I would go to court one day, they offered me 10. They go down from 15 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, can't take that.
In a system where so many defendants plea out, regardless of guilt or innocence, simply to avoid the possibility of even harsher sentences, his willingness to fight back and refuse deals that would have kept him locked up far longer speaks volumes about either his confidence in his case or his unwillingness to accept what he saw as unfair punishment.
Sometimes it's like, you gotta let them give you that time. You can't just give up that easy.
Gotcha.
For me, it's all a mind game and a weighing game.
Yeah.
To be honest.
While Martinez sat in prison navigating this mental chess game with prosecutors and his own legal team, life continued outside the walls in both encouraging and frustrating ways. His music videos got more and more views at a steady pace. His name gained recognition in the Bronx drill scene among both fans and fellow artists, and his daughter grew older without him, hitting developmental milestones that he could only hear about through phone calls and letters.
You in the crib and shit, like in Rikers Island and shit, when you in the crib and shit, everything be good, like throughout the day and shit. You interacting with niggas out in your crib.
Yeah.
You doing shit, you getting on the phone, you talking to the town, talking to your peoples, you eating, you making food, you going to Regs, man. Everything is good. It's like, I feel like people start thinking about shit, like when the cell doors close, like when it's time to lock in, then it's just you in the cell, you start thinking about all them numbers.
But even behind bars, surrounded by concrete and steel, he wasn't safe from the violence that defined his world and followed him everywhere.
I'm fake first time upstate, niggas is showing me mad love. I don't know these niggas over there, they showing me mad love, we eating together and shit like that. I'm putting niggas on the phone with bitches and all that, then next thing you know, like, I'm in my cube one day laying down and shit, I get cut over the cube.
Martinez was attacked upstate, cut by someone he'd befriended and trusted, but he survived the attack, continued serving his time with his release date as his guiding light. And in January 2024, John Martinez finally walked free, assigned to regular check-ins at the Bronx 2 parole office at 26 Bruckner Boulevard, a location that would prove tragically significant in ways no one could have predicted at the time. Freedom tasted sweet for John Martinez in those first weeks of January 2024, after 4 long years behind bars where every day felt like forever and every night brought thoughts of everything he was missing.
I went to go see my daughter. Like when I got to my actual house, I went to go see my daughter and shit.
Okay, got you. What was that like, seeing her for the first time? Were you seeing her while you were away?
I seen her one time, like throughout the 4 years, I seen her one time and shit.
Yeah.
So, and it was closer to when I was getting released.
But Martinez wasn't content to simply exist and fade into the background, because he wanted to rebuild his music career and prove that his talent could turn into something real and legitimate. That same January, he released Back on My Bully, a track filmed by Clovisions that shouted out friends like Leaky Drilly, Millie Drilly, Swift Drilly, and locked up members with phrases like Free Bando BD, Free T-Dot, emphasizing the loyalty and brotherhood that defined his crew even when members were scattered across different facilities. By June 2025, he'd worked with Blizzy Drilly on Danger, further solidifying his return to the scene and showing he could still create compelling content that connected with his audience. Martinez expressed openness to collaborations, saying in interviews that "I'm willing to work with any artist, upcoming or signed. I don't mind. I'm just getting back into the studio, so I rather work with different artists to perfect my craft." Wilfred Hiedesuelo of Hug the Block Foundation praised Martinez's post-release efforts to make music again peacefully, highlighting what seemed like a real shift toward positive impact rather than glorifying violence. For 21 months, it appeared that Martinez might actually pull off the nearly impossible feat of escaping the pull of street violence that claims so many young lives in the Bronx, as he balanced his parole requirements with studio sessions and family time. But those hopeful dreams clashed violently with the drill genre's dark side that couldn't be ignored or wished away. The reality was that Martinez's music didn't just remember fallen friends, but also glorified gang loyalty and insulted rivals in ways that kept old feuds alive and burning. His tracks contained coded references that insiders immediately understood, names of enemies that couldn't be mistaken for anything else than threats, boasts about past confrontations that served as both tribute and provocation.
Niggas know what's going on, like,
Yeah.
the weirdo. That's it, basically.
Got you. I ain't gonna lie, I heard a story, and you let me know if it's true or not. I heard a story kind of like, I guess there was a time where TJ was in a park, and I guess somebody brought him to a park, and I guess that park was kind of like around where the Drillies be at.
The streets don't forget insults or disrespect. Feuds don't expire just because someone serves time, and the rivals Martinez had insulted in his music, including artists like K Flock, Lil TJ, and others, were very much aware of his presence back in the neighborhood and weren't necessarily willing to let bygones be bygones. Which brings us back to that terrible October afternoon that would end everything Martinez had been building. Martinez had completed his routine parole check-in at the Bronx 2 office, fulfilling one of the required conditions of his release. Eyewitness Clarissa Aleato, a local resident who happened to be in the area, saw the masked gunmen rushing toward the parole office with clear purpose, and their target was clear, their intent obvious from the way they moved. They fired multiple rounds into Martinez's body as he walked out of the building, showing no hesitation, no mercy, or any sign that this was anything other than a planned execution designed to send a message. Parole officers rushed to help while frantically calling for emergency services, and people nearby screamed and ran in all directions as the reality of what they'd witnessed set in. NYPD officers arrived within minutes to find Martinez bleeding out on the sidewalk, immediately beginning CPR, while at the same time securing the scene and trying to get clear statements from shocked witnesses. And videos of this chaos spread online within hours, capturing the frantic efforts to save his life that ultimately proved useless. The suspects ran away east on East 132nd Street. The initial descriptions released by police included one suspect dressed in all black clothes with white sneakers, another wearing gray, a third in black over gray, and a fourth in purple with light blue jeans and a distinctive bun hairstyle that made him stand out. But despite these relatively detailed descriptions being released immediately to the public and media, as of today, which is more than 3 months later, no arrests have been made, which raises serious questions about either the investigation's progress or the challenges of getting witnesses to cooperate in gang-heavy neighborhoods. The investigation officially remains open, with the NYPD continuing to ask for tips through Crime Stoppers, but the loud silence surrounding this case speaks volumes about the built-in challenges of investigating gang-related violence in neighborhoods where witness cooperation is rare, fear of revenge runs deep, and the code of the streets often beats the desire for justice. Speculation naturally centers on gang revenge tied to Martinez's diss tracks and long-standing feuds that had been building for years. The fact that the shooting happened directly outside a parole office, which was a location Martinez was legally required to visit on a predictable schedule, suggests attackers who knew his routine intimately, understood his obligations to the system, and planned their attack with chilling precision that left no room for chance. Tributes flooded social media immediately after his death, with videos of local youth dancing to his tracks near Williamsbridge Oval Recreation Center, which showed how his music had genuinely touched people and become part of the neighborhood's soundtrack. His music lives on through streaming platforms and YouTube. His influence continues in the work of younger artists who cite him as inspiration, but the man himself is gone forever, claimed as another casualty in the endless cycle of revenge that defines too many Bronx neighborhoods and claims too many promising lives. Do you think Martinez had this retaliation coming, or it was just a senseless death? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.